So we are live on our final episode of Crossbow Appreciation Month 2024. Can you believe that? And I am going to go on here. I got my laptop here. I'm in a crossbow at the crossbow workbench. We're going to talk about the SWA-HACKERS, right? So that is the topic of conversation. It looks as though we are live right now. We've been on here. Oh. Problem solved. Oh, yeah. Problem solved. The laptop is not going to interfere with the audio in this live stream. So, I have my Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee. I am ready to go. And this is the final installment of Crossbow Appreciation Month 2024. Are you ready? This is the 31st video in 31 days. We're going to wrap this up. This is going to be the final video. And I'm going to see if I can get this adjusted a little bit. There, that's better. Last time we ended up going up and down. Isn't that weird? So, anyway, the topic of today's video, the final video of Crossbow Appreciation Month 2024. The topic is Van Halen versus Van Hagar. Van Halen's better, right? I get to that debate every once in a while. Good morning to you two. I've got the chats popping up here. So I have the chat over here and I can blow that up and be able to look at it. Don't fret. The topic is not Van Halen versus Van Hagar, because that's a topic that's already been solved, right? A question that's already been answered. We already know that Van Halen is superior to Van Hagar. There's no reason to discuss that further. Instead, let's talk about something crossbow related. Let's talk, and yeah, we got Van Halen fans on here, right? That's what it's all about. Diamond Dave. But what we're here to talk about is the SWA-HACKER, right? We're going to talk about the SWA-HACKERS in this video. And we're going to talk about, and I hope that fan on that laptop doesn't bother you too much, but we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different little topics. Yesterday, you saw me shoot the Raven R29X through a watermelon. I had one-eyed archer friend of Bunjie Jim over here doing that. We were shooting in the backyard, testing that thing. As funny as it sounds, that really was my primary motivation for buying the Raven. Isn't that weird? I want to keep Death by Bunjie up to date, right? I want to do that. And at the same time, balance it with tried, true, and tested crossbows. I don't want to have just the, we're not just going to be brand new crossbows. We're not just going to be the old Bunjie either, right? We got to have a good balance. And the Raven pushes me into that 450 feet or so feet per second category, which is important, I think, for my mind, for me to understand what those speeds can and can't do. I think that's valuable, right? And that's information that's valuable for me to pass along to you as friends of Bunjie. I think it's very important that we do that. But also, I think we have to keep it in perspective, too. I understand that not all friends of Bunjie have access to those crossbows. I wasn't necessarily looking for that until it was like 2 weeks ago I decided to get into this when I saw that sale go on. So that's what brought me to the Raven. But what convinced me to do it was really these broadheads. I love the SWA-HACKERS. I really do. I know there's tons of great broadheads out there, and if they work for you, that's fantastic. My thinking on the broadheads is, though, that there were two things that I wanted to solve with that watermelon test, right? The watermelon test answered both of those questions. One was, is this going to open prematurely? We shot it out of the faster crossbow. That was shooting with this broadhead on here, 437 feet per second or so. That's through the chronograph. That's pretty powerful stuff. Kaboom, goes out of there. Is that going to force these bands to break? These bands right here, right? Is it going to break those bands, right? And open prematurely? And the answer was no. It didn't open prematurely. We would know because there would be a 3-inch hole going into that watermelon, and there wasn't. There was a 1-inch hole going into the watermelon. The other thing that I wanted to answer out of that was, I was repeatedly hearing in podcasts that the new crossbows are so fast that the broadhead doesn't even have a chance to open. right? And people are losing deer because the broadhead goes through so fast it doesn't even open. That made no sense to me. It sounded like a BS excuse is really what it sounds like, because if you look at this, right, closed, this is a 1-inch cutting diameter, and it is a single bevel, by the way. Not that that means an awful lot, but I mean, I do like the single bevels. We did other videos on that, don't get me wrong. But this is technically a single bevel, just so you know. But these blades are a 1-inch cutting diameter. They're every bit as big as a fixed blade broadhead, right? This is going to do the same amount of damage as a fixed blade broadhead, except it's going to open up like this and do this kind of damage on the way out and on the way through the deer, right? So these little tabs, even if you make a good shot and the broadhead doesn't open, the deer's still going to die. You're still going to find the deer. It sounded like BS to me that these weren't opening, right? It sounds like an excuse. People are just making bad shots. They're not tuning their crossbows, sighting in their crossbows properly, practicing properly, and making sure the gear is satisfactory. That's really what it was. But I was hearing this in podcast after podcast about how the broadheads don't open, right? Because the crossbow's so fast. It doesn't have time to open. And I'm going to do a video series on time and crossbows. It's a very important topic. It's an interesting topic, let's put it that way. But if this is traveling so fast, you can imagine it traveling so fast that it can't open, right? You could imagine that happening with any broadhead, right? But I was skeptical of that. And it turns out, my thinking was, if I can get it to open in a watermelon that's this big, right? That is like the size of my head, basically. It opens going in, well, that's a bad example, but if it opens in this amount of space, right? Traveling at that speed, then it's definitely going to open in a deer where these little feet right here, right? They got to hit a hide. They have to go through a hide, bone, whatever else. It's going to force these blades to open up like this and go, and boom, go through it. So the fact that they did not open prematurely in a watermelon, right? And they didn't open coming off the bow, off the crossbow. That's important, right? All that energy all at once dumping into that, forcing these to turn into these right there and break those tabs. Now, I did use 2 little sleeves on them, right? 2 little of the tapes, the little rings here. You know, you get a bunch of them with your SWA-HACKERS, okay? So they come that way. You have access to those. I've got right up here in that case a ton of those little bands. I keep all those bands. I store them and keep them. If you're worried about it, you can get shrink wrap tube. Friend of Bunjie, George, who was here not too long ago, shot with me in the backyard with his Excalibur. Had a good time. Him and his buddy came over here, and you can get those and cut them off, and maybe we'll do a video about that down the road. But I haven't had any problem with them. If I put 2 of these, I got tons of these bands. They come on here, and I put 2 on every crossbow just because it doesn't take too much energy to open, not a problem. And so I'm not worried about them not opening. But it also, these bands have been around for a long time because these are the older broadheads. So that is the first topic I wanted to talk about. I'm going to cross off my little list here. This is my incredible list of topics that we're going to do. I don't want you to read it, though. I want it to be a surprise. So that was the first topic I wanted to talk about, the purpose of that. So go watch that watermelon video. Really, those are a fun video because you got slow-mo. And every year, every phone that I get, I don't know about every year, but every year that I have a new phone, the slow-mo gets better, right? The slow motion on these phones is just incredible to play around with, a lot of fun. So let's look real quick at we got a few people on here. I know this was an impromptu thing. This is a spur of the moment type of thing, but I had my coffee this morning. I had another video planned for today, and I thought, you know what? I've only done 1 live stream so far this year, and I'm going to do another one. So that is why we are out here. So Catfish Chronicles, Van Halen, good morning. 100%. It's Van Halen, right? Right? Can you listen to Hot for Teacher and tell me that there's anything that Sammy Hagar's done that's as good as Hot for Teacher? No. It's all preference, right? I mean, there's people out there who don't drink iced coffee. Can you imagine that? So, you know, it takes all kinds. I don't know how to figure those people out, but whatever. We all have our things. Morning from Illinois. Good morning back to you. We got people from all over the place. We got food plot talk going on here. Fantastic. Heading out to plant my food plots. Good luck. I hope the weather accommodates you today. I hope you get just the right amount of rain after you get those seeds in the ground. Good luck to you. I'm glad you guys are enjoying this month. It means a lot to me that you have joined me for 31 videos in 31 days. Can't believe you bought a Raven. You got the Expo bug now. Kinda I do. I will tell you this. When you get a little bit stagnant. This is my thinking again. A lot of this is everything that I say comes from my perspective, and it doesn't necessarily fit with everybody else. I understand everybody's got a different perspective, right? But I hunted for 12 years with the OB, right? My 2010 Excalibur Axiom, which tomorrow celebrates its 14th birthday. Think about that, right? No, 2 days from now, September 2, 14th birthday. So that was the day that I got it, right? 14 years. Going on season 15 with that crossbow. Oh yeah, you can't beat it. So, but you get, and I still love that crossbow. I still hunt with it. I still am playing around with arrows. I just went through and spine indexed every Bunjie arrow that I have. Every, zombie slayer that I have. I went through and indexed them and got them, marked up here. These all need, some of these need names worked on or whatever, but I spine indexed them, so I know now that I can put this one down and the spine is aligned up and down. So I went through and did that. So it's my cheap version, quick version of knock tuning, right? I'm not that good at spine indexing, but I can find the sweet spot to get the knock tuning done a little quicker. I did a video on that during Crossbow Appreciation Month too. So that's important to me that we have that, crossbow around though with proper arrows. But I think when you're looking at, you get a little bit bored, or a little bit, you've explored all the topics that with one crossbow, it's time to move on to another crossbow. That's one of the reasons I went with the Raven, so that we could see the value or lack thereof of really fast crossbows or faster crossbows, those higher speeds, right? Definitely the same people who crossbow hunting is an archery hunting saying that, yeah, there's people that hunt with compound bows have different perspectives on broadheads, 100%. If I were a compound bow hunter shooting those lower speeds, I'd be looking at those fixed blade broadheads perhaps, right? But when we have, with the Raven R29X, I'm over 0.8 slugs of momentum. 0.8 slugs of momentum out of the box. It's like too much out of the box, right? So a bigger broadhead is going to help with that. I like to not eat up all of that energy on impact, although we'll see how this performs on deer, and maybe we do want to eat up more energy on impact with a broadhead that opens completely on impact, right? We looked at that Killer Tech. That was a heck of a broadhead. It really did a lot of damage, a multitude of damage, right? We got all kinds of people on here. Texas is represented. St. Louis, hello. We have Sammy Hagar tonight in St. Louis. That's a hot tour. Everybody's going to see that, right? So good luck. I hope you enjoy it. My wife loves Sammy Hagar, so I get it. Pumpkin spice time, iced coffee. It is that time of year, isn't it? Nothing says get ready for deer season better than pumpkin spice from Dunkin' Donuts. Man, I'm telling you what. Maine is here. Ohio is here. Man, you guys are from all over the place. This is fantastic. I know it's an early morning live stream, but I thought, it's a chance for me just to ramble on about the SWA-HACKERS and talk about it and see what else you guys want to talk about that stuff. So we'll have a good time. So, yep, some good stuff there. I appreciate you guys chiming in. Keep commenting. We're going to have a great morning here. Talk about these things for a little bit. The next thing on here was, if you take note, this says number 251. Just try and buy one of these right now. They don't make it anymore. They don't make the best broadhead ever made on the history of the planet. This, the 3-inch SWA-HACKER, right? The one that got me to leave Rage. I didn't leave Rage, but I do prefer this for my setups. Still love the Rage. Might go back to Rage. Still got Rages, right? I got boxes of Rages too. But these SWA-HACKERS, if you look up here, okay, I've got right up here, there's 3 more packages or 4 more packages of them up there. And I have also more of them upstairs, in the trophy room. So I have a lifetime supply of these 251s. I went and bought every one I could get my hands on when I learned that they were no longer making them. I did contact Swhacker, and the reason they did this was just to streamline their inventory, right? The economy being what it is, various companies have streamlined their inventory. And this is a sensitive topic with a lot of people, but the reality is I don't think the market supports, back when times are good and everybody's buying broadheads, everybody's got money in their pocket and they're buying stuff, you can have a crossbow one that says crossbow on it, right? That's one color. And then you can have the 243. If you're looking for one of these, you can have the 243, which was the compound bow guy one, right? And that way everybody's happy. The crossbow guys get crossbow ones. The compound bow guys get compound bow ones. The reality is they're the same broadhead, just different color, okay? One-eyed archer measured them for me. He had a set of the other ones there, the compound bow guy ones, and he measured them. They were green, you know, they're a different color, but they are the same size, exactly the same broadhead. I did contact SWA-HACKER, and they tell me that they are the same size. They're exactly the same thing. And the only reason that they stopped making these was to streamline them. They just don't make a crossbow and a compound bow one. They make a broadhead, and that's it. So they will work. They're the same thing. Put the two bands on them. If you got a faster crossbow, maybe that sort of thing, you're good to go. So we really don't need to worry about the 243. It'll work just fine. But I'm a stickler for, you know, when I like something, I like it. And I like the silver, and I want to be the guy 5 years from now still using the silver one. And I can brag about that, right? So isn't that fun? So I have a whole bunch of these. I bought a bunch of them. But they are a good solid broadhead. I do like them. They are the same thing, though. So you can do the 243. The other thing I want to talk about is, we talked about the watermelon, the blades. Now, here's a good one. Here is a good one. Here's a package, and they float around in here. I wish they packaged them a little better, because once they start floating around, they're hitting each other, and you got to check and make sure they're not dinged up. I doubt they'll get dinged up. They'll be just fine. They will be just fine. But you can replace the blades on these guys, right? Whether you want to replace the blades on these guys is a different question. That is something that we will get into here shortly. But there's that. There's that. So what do we got for comments here? We got some people on here. We have New York is here, Vermont is here, New Hampshire is here. We got people from all over, Ontario and Minnesota, people from out there. That's fantastic. And up there in Ontario. Some people are trying out these SWA-HACKERS because of my videos. I get that. I should comment on that real quick. I don't think just because it works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you. That's a fact. With a lot of this stuff, some of it works for me and it may not work for you, right? Because I don't know what arrows you're using. I don't know what animals you're shooting at. Even if you're shooting at deer like I am, if you're hunting up in Saskatchewan, that's not necessarily the same thing as shooting the deer down in Florida, right? They're two different things. Like, the world is just different. Every shot we take is different. The arrows, I don't know what arrows you're using, what crossbow, what speed you're shooting. I don't know what weight you're using overall. I don't know how good a shot you are. That might factor into broadhead choice and broadhead selection as well. There's just a lot of factors, right? A lot of factors. So I can only tell you what my experience is, what my thoughts are, and then you have to analyze that, right, and put that in perspective for yourself. For the whole time I've been hunting with a crossbow, 15 years, most of the information that we get is from compound bow hunters, because they've been hunting a lot longer with archery equipment than we have, right? We're out here with a crossbow, and they're telling me, well, you got to use fixed blade broadheads because you can't get penetration with mechanicals. But they're shooting at 200 to 250 feet per second, lots of them. And that's not the same thing as shooting at 300 to 500 feet per second, right? When you're shooting, they're all different, right? So you add speed, it makes changes. So they're two different things. So how do SWA-HACKERS handle big shot targets? A great question. I did buy the Big Shot Titan 10X, I think it is. The SWA-HACKERS, because of this design, right? Even, now the practice point is going to be a little different. This will go in, and if you look at, that's the practice point. The new ones don't come with a practice point. That's another economy-related issue. They got to stop doing this, because if they add the practice point, then they're going to charge you an extra $5 for this package, maybe, or whatever it is, right? In order to make this more, some of the manufacturers went to selling you just 2 instead of 3. Remember that? You've seen some of them. Some broadheads now, you buy a pack of broadheads, it's only 2, not 3. SWA-HACKER, I think, still sells you 3, but they dropped this. You can buy this separate on their website. I have a dozen of these, or 2 dozen or something. I bought a bunch of these because now that the seasons are upon us, right, I'll shoot nothing but these just to sight in with them. So I'll be shooting these, you know, at different yardages to make them, to tune them in, to make sure that I'm sighted in for these practice points. So you do want some of these, and that's the nice thing about it. I didn't even write that on my list, but one of the things I like about the SWA-HACKERS is the fact that the practice point kind of matches. It looks like these, right? It gives me the sense of peace, right? That, yeah, this is going to shoot and fly the same as this. So in the moment of truth, when I'm shooting this, if I'm sighted in for this, it'll work. Some of them don't even come with a practice point, and I wouldn't use a broadhead that doesn't have a practice point. That kind of drives me nuts. In those cases, you've got to sacrifice one of the 3 that you got and shoot that at a target repeatedly, and maybe JB weld it shut or something, or use impact Gorilla Glue, impact resistant Gorilla Glue might work, something to hold those blades and make your own practice point. That's going to change the weight of it, so you got to be use that glue sparingly. Maybe grind a little piece off of it to accommodate, to make up the difference for the weight of that. I don't know, but it's a lot of experimentation, a lot of work. It's nice to have this, and I don't know why. Every manufacturer should have an exact replica that is a practice point. Sell that on their website even. I don't care if you got to pay more for it. I get that. But that should be available. And it's unfortunate that they don't do that. I was talking about something before I went off on that rant. Rambled off on that. But the... bag targets, right? Not bag targets. You don't shoot these at bag targets, right? The meshy bag targets. You don't shoot these at this. It's just going to chew them up and destroy them. So don't do that. You need a blob or a block or a chunk, or depending on the speed of your crossbow, maybe the Titan 10X. And I will say that because of this design, this goes in, but when you're pulling the arrow out, those blades are still focused away from them. They pull right out. These, if you watch that watermelon video, it opened up, went into the block, into the, not block, the Titan 10X. Right? Big shot Titan 10X, but pulled out real nice. Of the broadheads we use, this pulled out real nice. The SWAT Moab has blades going every which way. That thing's got blades all over the place. That did not pull out nice. That was a fight to get that out of that Titan. Okay, so of the big shot target. But that big shot target, high marks for me. It wasn't as expensive as some of them. You can get them a little bit cheaper. Amazon's got different sizes. The real high speed one, I bought that. And I don't know if I even needed the high speed one, to be honest with you. I got lots of penetration in there, but it stopped it with no problem. I mean, it went in 4 to 6 inches or something. It wasn't like 16 inches in there or something like that, burying it up to the fletchings. Old targets, probably not going to work going forward. The block that I got is pretty chewed up. And I mean, it'll work at distance with other crossbows, but not with the Raven. So pretty cool. We got some people. Oh man. Yep, number 243, that is the new one. You're going to want to look at that. The SWA X mag heads, they are nasty. That is not one that I've tried yet, but I do have a SWAT. No, I don't know. I'm not really up on the other broadheads. It's kind of funny with, I'm not a testing channel. I only test what I use and report back what I use. That's all I do, kind of. I don't do, I'm not going to test every broadhead on the market. I don't have time to do that. I don't have the money to do that. Really don't have the interest in doing that. There's other people that do that better than me. But I'm glad that you guys report this stuff, because it was a friend of Bunjie that got me to try these, and I had a pack of them. I bought them just because I thought they were amazing. This is going way back, but I had the pack up on the wall and just displayed it for all this time, and then I used them. I was like, holy cow, these are incredible. They really are helpful. Any issues with rubber bands breaking when fired? No, and I think the watermelon test kind of answers that question, because with 2 bands on there, and these are old bands, right? Because these are all old packages that I got, but I put 2 bands on there. You can throw 3 bands on there if you want. On that watermelon test, it did not open prematurely. It opened perfectly. And I had a 1-inch entrance, 3-inch exit. Every deer we've shot, Genevieve and I have only shot these for like 3 years now or more. And every deer we've shot, every animal we've shot has been 1-inch entrance, 3-inch exit. So they've functioned perfectly every time. Alabama is here. Fantastic. Wanted to buy Hyper Rapid, but not with the cams system they have on them. I went with the KI Instinct Vital X430 Elite. I really like that Vital X430. That's a sweet crossbow. I've shot that a few times at One-Eyed Archer's place, and that's a nice crossbow. Washington, Pennsylvania. Good deal. Hello, Old Grumpy Hunter has joined us. That's fantastic. Cambridge, Ohio is in the house. Not saying it always happens, but I got away from Swhackers for that reason. I had one open before impact. Yeah, if you got a 3-inch entrance wound in a deer, that's a pretty good sign that you, in fact, had one open on before impact. But again, a couple of bands, and you can go to the shrink wrap if you want to do that kind of thing. But man, if it's not doing it out of the Raven, I don't have to worry about that with my crossbows. I'm pretty happy about that. Sever broadheads. That's the one I do have one. And that has a practice mode. I do like that. I do like that. Old Grumpy Hunter has opened a mechanical in a hog. I think I was there. Maybe I wasn't. I don't know. He shoots hogs in various places. He does a little bit of traveling for those things. Yeah, like 3 states. He's shot in Pennsylvania, Texas, and Florida that I'm familiar with. So yeah, Old Grumpy Hunter is a world traveler when it comes to hogs. That's a fact. When are we going to Maryland? 2024, man. You got it. I'm going down twice this year, actually. Maryland's gonna get a real workout from the Bunjie family here. That's a fact. I can't wait. I'm very psyched. In fact, now that Crossbow Appreciation Month is over, now I shift into all the other hunting related stuff. What else do we have to do, right? We got to start getting our gear around, packing stuff up. We've got to start spraying the permethrin on our clothes to get that baked in there good. Get all the stuff washed and scent free and all that good stuff, and locate all the gear put away all the summertime gear. Get out the fall gear. We'll get all that stuff down. Yeah. Levi Morgan is the man. Y'all should do a collab with him for the Crossbow Hunters. That'd be cool. I've watched Levi Morgan for years, and I do like Levi Morgan. I have a lot of respect for him. Hello, Arkansas. Is that Hawthorne, Florida? Wow. I agree, not all points shoot the same. I think every broadhead should have a practice version. 100% agree. And sighting one with different points doesn't always work, and I have wasted so much money on that. I know. It's like you buy 3 of them for $45 or something, and you got a $15 shot. It makes this cost $15, right? Like basically that's what it is. You only have 2. Like it's not a good plan, right? Like maybe we should just boycott any company that doesn't give you a practice point. That's all we got is just don't buy those. I don't know what to tell you, but it's a thing. So you got to have those. The other thing I was going to talk about, a couple more things. I have a stack right here of cases, right? Cases. We don't talk about that. Nobody talks about cases. I'm going to sneak this out from under my tripod. Well, that was jiggly. MTM or MTN. MTM, I guess it is. Cases. I bought one of those, and I can't show it to you because it's right there. But if you look up here, those are all MTM cases up there on that top shelf with different arrows in them. And I just put blue tape on here so I can write on them with a marker and say which case they are, what arrows are in there. But I buy their arrow cases. They make crossbow specific arrow cases. They're not like the 36-inch long ones for those compound bow guys. They're for us, for the arrows for us crossbow guys. But they sent a catalog with it. It was in the case, and it's full of cases. Like, holy cow, they make stuff for all the rifle guys. They make stuff for like skeet shooting and sleds for this and that, and cases. But I'm going to look through here and see if they have any handy cases for crossbow broadheads. The reason I say that is there's 3 different styles of cases I have right here, and I've experimented with these things, and I'll show you what they're good for. This is the small one, and this is good to throw in your backpack, I think. You can throw a couple of SWA-HACKERS in here, or 3 of them, or whatever. You'll have your backup ones in here, and that way you've got a few that are good. Boom, there we go. And I thought of another idea, and I just wrote it down. But so you got that. This is a good one for that. These two, you can see the difference in these two. But this case, I think I got these off Amazon or eBay or something. But this one is way better, and I'll show you why. This one, if you open it up, right, you can put your SWACKERS in here or whatever broadhead you like. You can fill it right up and then close it, and then the foam is compressing it, holding it on both sides. This one you would have to buy some foam or add some foam to it, because when you look at it, it is too deep, okay? And it's meant for, this is a broadhead case, but it's meant for fixed blades where you put them in there like that. So if you got a bunch of fixed blades, it's a good spot for them. You put them in here, they're going to stay sharp and all that stuff. And then this goes in the top. But it's not real good for your mechanicals, so it doesn't do me a lot of good. It's not as valuable a case for me. This, on the other hand, is fantastic. So I'm just pointing that out. Those are 2 options for cases. But it's important to, like, if you look right here, I'm just going to show you real quick what I got going on here. Look at this pile of broadheads, right? These are some used ones. These have all been, and this is the next topic, all of these have been spun on this spinner, and they are all bent, okay? They are all bent. They don't spin true. The ones that you see in this case have all been spun, and they are ready for reuse. They're all used broadheads. Those right there, the ones that are crooked, right? They spin like this. They wobble on a spinner, and I can demonstrate that for you real quick. But those are the problem with those. They've been through a couple of deer, okay? So it's not like, I sound like I didn't get my money's worth. They aren't from the factory that way. But I replaced the blades, and I spin them. Once I get the blades in, I spin them and make sure that they're suitable for use. You don't really know. You can't just spin the ferrule. You could just spin the ferrule and see if that shaft wobbles or not, because that's really going to tell you. But the way I think about it is I want the finished product. I want to know if the finished product is going to spin true or not. So I put the blades in here and make sure it's going to spin. Truth is I can take the blades out and just try it over. But anyway, what you do, I'll try and show you this the best I can. We have our spinner, and that's a Raven arrow with a SWA-HACKER on the end of it. And if we get around here, hopefully you guys can see this. Hopefully this is going to demonstrate. I don't know that it's going to, but you can see the wobble in the end of that. Okay. I'll give you a few different angles here, and hopefully it gives you an idea what's going on here. Hopefully you can see that. Let me know if you can see that, but best I can do when I'm running the show here myself. But pretty cool. So anyway, that is the reason that stack right there, they did not spin perfectly. Now, I'll still use those probably, some of them, but with the understanding that I'm shooting these out of the OB. These get shot out of Bunjie at 20 yards and under, and they will fly just fine at 20 yards and under. They will kill deer. They'll open up. They'll kill the deer and or hogs or whatever else, and they will use them in them. So I'm not throwing them out, but I'm not going to be shooting them at distance with the Raven, right? I'm not going to be doing that, because as you reach out past 30 yards, 40 yards, 60 yards, whatever else, that broadhead is not going to fly as well as these broadheads are. Yeah, these broadheads, the ones that are in here, the ones that spun perfectly, right? You need, the farther out you're shooting, you really need, and the faster you're shooting, right? You need better balance of your arrows, better arrow flight. The broadhead is a big part of that. So you're going to have to look at that. But that's kind of where I'm at with that. That was my thinking. Let's look at some comments again. Vancouver. I have a crossbow that's about 340 pounds. Is that good enough to start deer hunting? If it's 340 pound draw weight, I'm betting it is. If it is 340 feet per second, you can certainly get a lot done with that. You need to make sure you're accurate. You need to make sure you take good shots. You need to test it in the backyard. You need to make sure that you don't reach out beyond your abilities, and you're going to be just fine with a crossbow if it meets those standards. Charlotte, North Carolina, hello. Kentucky's getting ready to start. A couple more weeks for our crossbow season in Taylorsville, Kentucky. I thank you guys again for watching all these videos this month. It's been interesting. Rich, I copied your setup minus the scope. That's for later. If you're talking about the SWAT X1, good for you. That is a great crossbow. I'm probably going to use that mostly for hunting this year. The Raven, I did not buy that with the intention of just hunting with it or anything like that. That really wasn't the purpose of it. It's more, I mean, maybe I'll hunt with it. I want to, but it's really more about learning the ropes of the Raven, introducing myself to Raven, their whole scheme of crossbows, getting my hands around a cocker, understanding how that, getting good at that. It's about me learning more about crossbows. That's really what the Raven is for, in speeds and stuff like that. So it will give me that kind of education, right? Some more of a knowledge base. That's really what it was about. Yeah, when I go to stores in general aren't as busy as they used to be. I don't think people have the disposable income, and that does trickle down to these companies. When you look at Tacticam, for example, I've got the old Tacticam, right? Here's my camera clamp. On deathbybungie.com on the gear page, I did put up a post about where to buy the stuff for the gear, for the camera clamp. You can make one of these little guys for yourself. This is the one with the Tacticam I just hang off to the side, but I have other ones that I clamp on the tree stand with me that'll support any size camera. You can make them to your own specs. Real easy to make these things. So just go to your hardware store, buy it. You can buy all this stuff locally. Go to a store and you can buy them, right? But Tacticam, another company, they quit making these. Quit making them. Not going to make it. Tacticam, the company. Think about this. This is what the company is named after, the Tacticam, right? And now they only make reveals. They only make trail cameras, which aren't Tacticams. It's the overall company. I get that. But 5 years from now, people are going to say, why do they call it Tacticam? They'll probably change their name. I don't know. But they quit making these. So I bought a bunch of these too. I found a few used ones on the eBay and all that good stuff and bought them. So I've got enough to get me a few years until I find a suitable replacement. But I really love the ability to put those cameras out, run them with a remote. You can't beat that. It's just great stuff. Oh, someone's reading my book. I love that. I have 2 books on Amazon. They're both on Audible right now too, so you can listen to the audio version. It took me a year to record that audio book, the second book, because it was so long and it was so much reading and it worked my throat real bad. I talk for a living, so I have to have a voice. And when I read that book, there was times when I can tell you this, when I read the chapter about the bear, that's a long chapter. I read that chapter and lost my voice for a week after that. It really wore me out. So gotta do that kind of stuff. Do I have an official name for the raven yet? The answer to that is kind of. I have an idea, but you kind of got to shoot it a few times, play around with it, maybe even hunt with it before you get confirmation of what that crossbow wants to be named. Does that make sense? Like, got to make sure you get the right name and that it matches what you're thinking it's going to, want as a name. So we're getting there. We're getting there. Emery Spire, I wish you the absolute best. I do. That's a tough one. But I really hope everything goes good for you. I wish you the absolute best this season. And, we are all searching for crossbow perfection. Thank you for that. That's actually a good point. And one thing I should point out is when I talk about crossbow perfection, that means different things to different people, because I don't know what animals you're hunting, where you're shooting, what kind of gear you have, what kind of budget you have, what kind of expectations you have, what's your goal in the woods. So it's going to mean different things to different people. It should, right? We're all on our own independent, separate crossbow journey, right? But for me, what really struck me about the X1 was the ability to hold that crossbow. I didn't need to modify it in order to look down the Burris Oracle X, and I love that scope, and I have that on every crossbow. And when I found that crossbow, the first time I shot it, I'm like, I got to get one of these because it just loves that scope. It felt perfect in my hands. And then shooting it, it was a joy to shoot. The deer that I shot with it, and the bear, it would go through the animal, but it didn't send the arrow 100 miles past the animal or anything like that. It didn't require me to buy all new targets. To me, that was crossbow perfection. It still is. That 0.7 slugs of momentum, 0.7 to 0.8, when you're in that range, right? To me, that's crossbow perfection because it puts the arrow through the animal and then just lays it on the floor, on the ground floor of the forest or in the food plot on the other side of the animal, right? That's perfect. It spent all of its energy with the 3-inch SWA-HACKER, right, in the animal. And I can shoot up front on the animal. And the animal doesn't duck the string, right, at 30 yards and under. That's perfection. You can't really ask for more than that, right? Now, the Raven might mean that at 40 yards I can do that. I don't know. But to me, I had been searching my whole crossbow career, my whole journey, for the ability to shoot a deer without worrying about a duck in the string. Because, with the old slow Bunjie, I am stubborn, and I aim where I want that arrow to go. I don't aim low, thinking maybe the deer is going to duck. That's not what I just can't get my head around that. Some people got that down. Good for you. For me, I aim where I want that arrow to go, and I expect it to get there before that target moves. You understand? It's the same. I'm replicating the outdoors in my backyard, and when I go out and I hunt, I want my gear to be able to perform to that level. And I found that crossbow, the SWAT X1, that out to 30 yards, I can do that, right? That's fantastic. And get the penetration. With the OB, you can do that out to maybe 20 yards with a stock broadhead, but, the 350 grain arrow weight. But the minute you go up to 400, you're slowing it down a little bit. And at 20 yards, it's asking a lot to push that through a deer. Just because it didn't have the momentum, didn't have the speed, right? You get the faster crossbow. That SWAT X1 to me is crossbow perfection. It's also kind of maintenance free, man. It's like you get the right strings and cables. I don't know why Killer Instinct ships them or did ship them. I got mine, had the older style strings and cables on it, create some problems, but you keep your eye on strings and cables with any crossbow, right? Even the Excaliburs, you got to look at the strings. Is the string height, is the brace height right, and all that stuff. You got to pay attention to what your crossbow's doing. You got to look it over. I can tell you right now, look at this. You want to talk about looking at stuff. I tried to spin this arrow, and watch this, right? I put this arrow, I'm just pulling out of the garbage, but I'll show you what's going on here. Watch this little bad boy spin, right? So I got it, and I put it out here, and I put it on the spinner, and I had a broadhead on it, or I was going to spine index it, you know, and measure it and everything. And then I put it on here and watch it jump. Look at that. I'm like, what's going on with this thing, right? And I had weight on it because it was on the spine indexing tool right there, right? It had that big weight on it, and it was jumping, and you can see it's split. Look at that. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully it's focusing for you. But yeah, it's all cracked. The arrow was all cracked. So you have to check over everything, right? And this has only been shot out of the OB. Now, probably what happened is probably I killed a deer. This is probably one that went through an animal. I don't know that. It's arrow number 1, but I don't remember what I did with this. But, you know, I threw it away. Actually, before I throw it away, I should try and reuse that. This has some heavier inserts in. I should at least look at those, whether or not I can reuse them or not. I'm going to pull that back out and set it up there. I'm glad I pulled that out here. But that's kind of an interesting thing. So you got to look over your gear. So you got to look at your strings and cables, regardless of what crossbow you buy, or whether it's a recurve or a you got to look at that stuff, because nothing lasts forever. You know, those things. True. The other thing about the strings and cables, they are intended to break before the limbs break. You understand? Like, they're sort of a safety feature on a crossbow. So you're pulling the trigger, and the string should break before the limbs break, ideally, right? So when a string breaks, I'm not saying it's a good thing, it's a bad thing, but it's better than the limbs breaking, because the limbs breaking, that's pieces that can hurt you or whatever else. And the string can whip around, but it's certainly better than the limbs breaking and the shattering or whatever else. So that's one of the reasons they do that. So there you go. You can still buy the Tacticam in Canada. You can buy them here and there, but they're not making new ones. You're just buying old stock. That's the end of the Tacticam. So that's what they told me anyway. If they change their mind, great. But it was actually like 6 months ago probably that I called them and got that information. I gave the Raven a name, LOL. Well, I can't wait to hear that. Name it Grim Reaper. That's a good one. Did you ever try the jalapenos grilled and glazed with honey and whiskey? I did not, but I am a fan of the jalapenos. I got some strawberry jalapeno jelly or jam from a friend of Bunjie in Texas. John, I got to tell you, thank you very much. I've been eating that on toast just like you recommended. You can't beat it. You can't beat it. It's just the right amount of sweet and hot. And if you like hot stuff, or like, and it's got the flavor too of the jalapeno. It's a very solid, very well made thing. I like Rage in the Cage. You can't go wrong with Rage. I do love those. I think for crossbow hunters, really, I am sold on the mechanical broadheads. You know, the problem with the fixed blade broadheads, they're nice and all, but every single one of them, the problem with, here it comes. Old Grumpy Hunter is rolling his eyes. But the problem with a fixed blade broadhead, as beautiful as they are, right? Look at these broadheads, right? Look at those single bevels. Ooh, that's fancy. These are a really nice broadhead if you like small broadheads, right? If you like tiny little broadheads, these are great broadheads. But they have their place. They're very solid, right? They'll go through anything. On the Raven, if I could get these to shoot out of the Raven, they can go through anything. Go through a car door probably, no problem, right? But the problem with those is they always fail to open every single time, right? It's terrible. Poor things. I don't know. But for us as crossbow hunters, mechanicals. That's the world's your oyster with crossbows, right? A modern crossbow, 0.7 slugs of momentum and above, you get to use whatever broadhead you want, pretty much. That's my thinking, right? And that's all I got for you is my opinion. That's all I got. Are you thinking on a new broadhead for the Raven? I am open to the idea of a new broadhead for the Raven. We've got to see how it performs on deer. I'm satisfied that my SWA-HACKERS are going to work on the Raven. I am. But we're going to see if maybe I want like a 2-inch plus cutting diameter on the way in, right? On the way in, as well as on the way out. And if you hunt exclusively from the ground, the 3-inch exit hole and a 1-inch entrance may not be your best bet. Maybe what you want is a 2-inch in, a 2-inch out, you know, because you're shooting horizontally, especially with this crossbow, you're shooting pretty horizontally. With shooting from a tree stand, you can't beat the 1-inch in and the 3-inch out. So if you only got 4 inches to spend, 3 inches on the out gives you that angle, and the floor of the forest is just opened right up. That exit wound is it's epic, right? Just like Hot for Teacher is epic, right? Got a comment on here from a friend of Bunjie. You are correct. I agree with you. Have very good taste in music. Failure is not an option. Yeah, performance of your broadhead is mandatory, and that's why I did the watermelon test. I think it's a valuable test. I do. I do think so. We did the spin test. Oh, last thing on my list. Last thing on my list. Where are we at here? We're in 44 minutes in. We're going to be under an hour. That's really good. Two things I want to point out. Now, in here, this is last year's broadheads. Last year's broadheads. There are 7 or 8 of them in there, probably, whatever it is. But the ones that we used last year that have been shot at animals, they have gone through animals. In fact, I will dump some of this mess out here and show you. It's like, that's what they look like when they get done going through an animal, right? They're all wadded up. People are like, oh, that's proof that it's not a good broadhead. No, sorry. That's proof that it's a good broadhead, right? I mean, look at the damage this thing. You know how much damage I had to do to look like that, right? Went right around the bones, cut right through half of them on the way in. It cut those. And just so everybody's aware, picture it closed, but it hits the deer like this, and these little tabs hit the hide, hit the ribs, whatever, the shoulder, whatever else, and it peels these open. But I shoot right through the front end of those deer. I shoot right through the meat of the shoulder, and it goes right in there above the heart and the bottom of the lungs, and it gets all the big arteries and veins and stuff, and it's tearing through there with these 3-inch blades, and these come out the other end. And the nice thing is, these are used up when they hit the ribs, these little guys, right? But this opens up, and these are brand new going through the deer. They are brand new. So they cut and slice all the way through the organs and veins and all the arteries and everything else. And they're brand new, and they're nice and sharp, and they've only touched the fleshy, easy to cut stuff, right? With a very sharp blade. And then, and only then, do they hit the opposite side, go through bone, meat, and hide with these otherwise sharp blades. And it cuts that 3-inch exit wound. And in every single instance we've done it, probably a dozen animals, it's been 1 inch in, 3 inches out. Probably over a dozen, right? Got to be over a dozen because I got all these spent ones. So probably 2 dozen animals over the last several years. So it's pretty good stuff. I really, really do like them. Really do like them. The SWA X Mag 3.5-inch cut, that is not true. I'm going to tell you why. I don't count this as a... This is my thinking of that, right? I'm just going to draw you a little picture. So it's a 3.5-inch cut because it does this, right? Whereas the Swhacker is a 3-inch cut because it does this. So here's your Swhacker with your 3-inch cut. Here's your 4-blade, right? Your little tiny 4-blade fixed blade, for example. It cuts 3 inches because look, it cuts here and here and here and here, and you add all that up. It's kind of like buying a television from Walmart, right? Oh, it's 90 inches, but you get it out of the box. The box isn't even 90 inches. How can it be 90 inches? That's crazy because they measure it vertical. They measure it the longest way possible, and it's the same thing with broadheads. This is legit 3 inches, right? But this, they add up all this stuff and say, oh, that's 3.5 inches. But what if you had a broadhead? It's still not 3.5 inches. My point is, because this is the hole you're making, and it's like 1 inch. Okay, you can call it 3.5 inches and add everything up, but the reality is it's a 1-inch hole. It's a 1-inch hole, and it only reaches stuff within 1/2 inch of going in there, whereas this reaches stuff within 1.5 inches of where it goes in, right? So this reaches stuff within 1/2 inch of the ferrule, and it's a 1-inch hole. So let me ask you this. What if I had a broadhead, and I've done this in another video, and I mentioned this in my books. What if I had a broadhead with 20 blades, right? Like that, right? It's a 19-inch cutting diameter, right? That's what you're going to tell me? No. Nobody's going to believe that. It's a 1-inch hole. It's just got lots of blades. That's all it is. So it doesn't matter to me that it's got lots of blades. It only matters to me, though. I want reach, man. I want my broadheads to go in there and reach out and extend and reach out there and cut as much as they can, like this guy. That goes in there and it cuts as much as it can. It's reaching out and just cutting and slicing through everything with brand new fresh blades. You can't beat it. But that's my thinking. Again, this is my opinion about that stuff. And that's why I'm not impressed with smaller broadheads that just have a lot of blades. That doesn't do it for me. So, but I understand. I mean, they had their place. Those SWAT or the Sever, you can use it. It's got some value there, right? Because you can lock it down, use it as a practice point. It's got a really strong build to it, right? You can tell by holding onto that broadhead. It is a very strong broadhead. And it is going to open up stuff. And some of the ones, when you open up in the animal, right? When you open up at impact, that might be better for certain applications. And it eats up some energy. And where I'm at 0.8 slugs of momentum, or 0.85 slugs of momentum or something with the 450 grain broadhead, I forget what it was, but there's so much momentum there maybe you do want to open up on impact, right? So I might be looking at those other, SWAT X mag, for example. I might be looking at that. I really do. So I'm not knocking that broadhead. I am not. Okay, please don't take that as what I'm suggesting. I appreciate the feedback, right? This is, again, I got into the SWA-HACKER business because of a recommendation of a friend of Bunjie, or several of them. And I'm like, oh, all right, fine. I had a pair, and they were intriguing to me. They were interesting to me. So I went and opened them up and used them. And sure enough, now I'm sold on them. And as Old Grumpy Hunter says, yes, the 3-inch blade made a very nice exit hole in our Manitoba bears, 100%. Definitely contributed to our ability to bring bears home from Manitoba, 100%. Wyvern Creations, good stuff. I'm glad you're using them. Look at the R29X because of your video. Unfortunately, missed the sale. The sale is why I bought it too. That sale was big. I'm not going to spend that kind of money for a crossbow before the sale, but you were able to buy it for like $1,000 off. It came with a scope, the sniper scope, a single pin scope with a dial on it. I was not interested in that scope, and I was able to sell that scope and reduce the cost even more. So that's very important to me. It's just a good overall set because I'm using that Burris either way, Texas is in the house once again. That's fantastic. Did you ever get your crank handle back for the Raven? Yes, I did. I've been out and shooting it, and I hate to say this, I do. I kind of like that crank. It's a crossbow journey. You understand? It is a journey, right? I was not born with all the knowledge I'm going to need to be the best crossbow hunter I can be. You have to go out there and educate yourself, try different things, and continue to grow. And for me to say that I like a crank is a big deal, right? But it also shows you that it's okay to try new gear, right? It is. You can try a new crossbow, right? Just go try one. Go to your friend's house and shoot somebody else's crossbow a few times and see if you like it. That's what sold me on the SWAT X1. I shot that thing at Jim's, and I told Genevieve this. There's a video where I'm walking. I'm like, she's got the camera on me, and she's like, oh, you can tell that the camera's in 60 frames per second because it's got that smooth look to it. And she was just commenting on the camera as I was walking with the crossbow. We had just shot it, and we were walking out to get our arrow. And I told her, I said, yeah, you got to have 60 frames per second for a sweet crossbow like this. But I remember I was holding it in my hand, and I'm like, I am going to buy one of these because this is, I only shot it one time. And I was like, this crossbow is calling out to me. It's telling me, you got to get one of these. The Burris fit on there perfect. The smooth shot, the speeds, the specs, the ability to rope cock it, everything about it. And I do like the rope cocking of that crossbow over the crank. The crank on that one, friend of Bunjie Jim just uses a crank, right? Why rope cock if you don't have to? I'm stubborn, right? I'm stubborn. I didn't want to use these, but eventually I used them, never turned back, never looked back. So we're all different. We all have our different approaches on that stuff. So, yeah. Do you ever think about Grim Reapers? I do like the Grim Reapers. Now, and in fact, the Grim Reaper, that probably would be on the short list of broadheads I would use with the Raven. Now that I'm in the 0.8 slugs of momentum and greater category, right? Go to deathbybungie.com, Old Grumpy Hunter, worked up a whole bunch of calculators there, which I inspired. He did all the math and the technical stuff. That's not my bag, but we put together these really nice calculators on deathbybungie.com. Go to that. You can play around, find out what your momentum is with your arrow weights. And you can just estimate stuff. If you don't have the scale, the ability to weigh it, just do some internet research, find out the best you can what it is to get a feel for this stuff. But once you kind of understand that stuff, it'll give you more input as to what broadheads you should be using, right? With the OB, when I was in a 0.4 slugs of momentum category, I am not using you really can't be using a Rage broadhead on that. It just, I tried and tried and tried, and it's just too much. So you got to jack up your arrow weight, right? And experiment with heavier arrows. I bought customs, and friends of Bunjie sent me customs, and those worked, right? They got a fixed blade through, or excuse me, a mechanical, like a Rage through a deer, and they even got a SWA-HACKER through a bear, right? In Maine. So it can be done. But you got to play around with the numbers because every time you change the weight, that changes your momentum. It changes your speed too. It brings your speed down, but it jacks your weight up. And remember, momentum is basically weight times speed. So if you can buy a faster crossbow, boom, you've increased your momentum. If you buy a heavier arrow or increase arrow weight, you're probably increasing your momentum, even though you bring your speed down. It does go up. So it's good stuff. But play around with those calculators. Valuable stuff. Thank you, Old Grumpy Hunter, for all that work you did on those. I really do appreciate that. Ohio, by the way, getting does galore on trail cams around here. That is not something to complain about. Uh, man, I just love. I was at a golf event yesterday. I don't play golf anymore, but I was at an event and a doe got kicked out on onto the fairway there from the woods. Somebody's looking for a ball or something, and they kicked the doe out, and she just ran up across the fairway, just trotted along, right in the middle of the day. I was like, man, oh. And then it got me looking. I'm sitting there at the golf on the fairway. I was working one of the holes, like for the different competitions and stuff for our local Republican Party, and as this part of the job of being an elected official now, that kind of thing. So, but I was working one of the holes, and so I started looking around like, I could put a stand in that tree over there, and you got the whole golf course is a giant food plot, right? It's just great. Oh man, it was just great. So it's good stuff. Good stuff. So, and then we've got last season was my first crossbow hunt. When gun season started, I looked down at the rifle and I wished it was a crossbow. One of the things I was going to do there, Ace Murphy, one of the things I was going to do for a couple of videos is why this year, and I still might do these videos. I think they're still on my calendar. Why you should hunt with a crossbow instead of a compound bow, and why you should hunt with a crossbow instead of a rifle, right? These are not mandatory, right? For me, I don't have any interest in hunting with a rifle anymore. I sold all my rifles. I have one left, just the one that I'm sentimentally attached to, an old model 94 Winchester. I'm sure everybody out there has seen that 30-30, or has one, right? But that was the one that I shot my rifle buck with in 1986, so I'm not going to get rid of that rifle, right? It's a family heirloom of sorts. But the rest of them I really didn't have any emotional attachment to, and I just let them go. And buy more crossbow stuff, right? But I have no interest in going back to rifle hunting because I can do everything with a crossbow. I can hunt all year long with a crossbow, right? And if you hunt with that one weapon, you get real good at it. So that was important to me. I think if people like to hunt with compound bows, go for it. But I think it's important to do a video, and I probably will do this, just talking about some of the reasons why they should consider hunting with a crossbow, because you're missing out on some fun. I'm telling you, the world, it just opens up new doors. The crossbow does, and it's just such a great weapon. So last thing I'm going to leave you with, you get all done with these. These are kind of dangerous, right? You don't want to throw them in the garbage, right? I'm in a hotel room in Maryland or something like that, and what are you going to do with this? You can't throw it away because it's going to poke somebody when they're throwing the garbage out. You don't want to hurt people. You don't want the garbage man getting hurt. You don't want the the people who service the rooms getting hurt. So what do you do with it? I carry old pill bottles with me and just put them in there with the SWA-HACKER. It's such a big broadhead. You need a pretty big bottle, right? Because it's just a giant broadhead. But the fish oil ones, man, these things just take up all kinds of, they hold 50 broadheads. So you can just carry that with you, throw it in your luggage, fill it up. When it's filled up, you throw it in the garbage. Everybody's happy, right? And you can carry them, and they're not going to cut through your garbage or anything like that. So I got all last year's in here. My next stop here is going to be to go through. Now that one is not getting reused. That is garbage. You can see that that's garbage. And you could just throw this away, but that is bent real good. But I'm going to go through. I'll spin them, put new blades on them, and just see where they go. I got blades in here and everything else. And if there's any that are salvageable, I will do that. Otherwise, I will throw this bottle away in its entirety. So, yeah. No complaints about the does on. I lost my train of thought. No complaints about the does on trail cameras, because, man, that is what makes you a better crossbow hunter. The more does you shoot, the better off you will be as a crossbow hunter, because it gets you good at pulling the trigger in the presence of deer, and that is huge. And people don't have enough experience doing that and don't understand the value of it. You get better at being a crossbow hunter by crossbow hunting. You don't get better at being a crossbow hunter by sitting out in the backyard and just mindlessly shooting 1,000 arrows. That doesn't do you any good. It doesn't move the ball forward. It just makes you really good at cocking and shooting and repetitive stuff. If you get good in the presence of deer, especially with does, you got 4 of them. That's 8 sets. That's 8 eyes, right? 4 sets of eyes, 8 eyes. It's 8 ears, right? It's 4 noses getting ready to pick you off. And if you can get on one of those and make a clean shot with a crossbow, you're moving your crossbow hunting forward. And that's what's important. So shoot more does. The other thing about shooting more does is it's better for deer, right? What would you rather be going into the lean months like December, January, February, and March? Would you rather be a deer where there's 100 deer per square mile? Or would you rather be a deer where there's 6 or 8 deer per square mile? What would you rather be? 100% it's better for deer to have fewer deer. So the more that we shoot, the better off they are. Don't be so selfish as to think, well, I want to see a whole bunch more deer next year, so I'm not going to shoot any does because I want them all to have babies and struggle to get through the year, and I want a third of those babies to die from malnutrition and everything else. Don't be that way, right? Think about what's best for deer and deer management. That's a thing. And consider just shoot more does. Everybody benefits from it. You get great food. You get a great day in the woods. You get the ability to share that with your family, both the meat and the experience. And it gets you psyched up for the next time you go out there. And then when that big buck shows up, you're going to be that much better of a hunter because you shot a doe and you've got that experience under your belt and you are comfortable with it and you know how to move in the presence of the animal. Nothing gives you that value better than that. Man, is that a great note to end this live stream on? I think that's a great note. Thank you for that comment. And I wish you the best with all of your trail camera does, right? So shoot more does, they grow back. That's what I got for you. Good deal. Man, we got a lot of good people out here. Thank you, folks, for joining me. Oh, we're over the hour mark. I better get going. I don't want to tie up your whole morning. This has been a fun time. I hope you got something out of this, whether you choose SWA-HACKERS or some other instrument at the end of your arrow. I hope you got something out of this live stream. I'm going to type something here. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to close this out. What I like to do, I don't know if you knew this or not. Some of you know what I'm about to do, but I'm going to type something here. Right there it is. Kaboom. All hail Bunjie. Thank you for joining me. Crossbow Appreciation Month 2024. Until next time, all hail Bunjie. Thanks, you guys.